It's politics.
For me, it is what I call Iberberism. I beg your pardon. Go and search for it, my friend.
It's current affairs.
4 years course, metamorphosing into 6 years.
And news that
Affects you.
What an academic academic yo in their leadership rococo, leadership rababare.
it's all the serious stuff.
But with a light-hearted twist.
I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
And I'm Oboh.
Join us 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday
Right here.
on Hard Facts.
Hello, Lagos. Good afternoon. It's great to be back after the weekend. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts.
Shaku Maku, everybody. It's great. I'm Aghogho, Oboh, and Sandra. Shaku Maku to you. And
How was
everyone.
your weekend? Did you have a good one?
It was brilliant. I loved it. I wish we could wind back.
Have one more day after
Yeah,
Sunday.
you know,
There needs to be an extra day after Sunday.
Yeah, some countries are proposing that people have 4 working days and then 3 days of weekend.
I mean, we do like our public holidays in Nigeria, so maybe Nigeria should copy that particular culture.
Well, I hear research says people who work 4 days work harder than people who work 5 days.
Agreed.
Yeah, because
Maybe
there's
companies
incentive for
should
you
do it
to-
first
Yeah.
instead of waiting for the nation to make a law.
You know, there's an incentive to know you're going to work 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 days to faff around, and so you work harder.
Yeah, and then eventually we're going to say no, we don't want 4 days anymore. Let's do 3 days. We'll work even harder if we have 3 days. Welcome to the show. We have a great one planned. First fact of the day: the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has fixed September 13th for its judgment. All parties closed their cases already, but the tribunal's first reserved judgment, and now we're going to know when the judgment will come. Aghogho.
Yeah, finally, we're getting a headway into this. It's waiting for the day we have elections in the country, and then we know that, and that's it. But there'll always be opportunities to contest. But it's better to go to court to contest the matter than to hit the streets and then cause wahala.
Depends on who you ask.
I've seen countries where people have gone on the street to fight about the election matter, and then no one has ended up wiser,
Well, we do not delay proceedings here on Hard Facts. Aghogho and I are here daily to give you the best insights into today's most important topics. We bring them to you, we break them down, and we give you all of the facts, and you can form an informed opinion, I always say. If you missed any of last week's shows, you can watch on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter as well, at Nigeria Info FM. In fact, you can watch us right now. If you've never seen our brand new, very fanciful studio, today's a good day to get on Nigeria Info 99.3 on Facebook and have a look. Like I said when we started, we have a great show for you. We're starting with the big 3 as always. PNID, remember that company we talked about? Well, they're making a list of Nigerian government assets that it can seize. We'll tell you that story. Plus, NYSC says it will not pay ransom for any kidnapped corper. And if you live in an area that floods, Lasema wants to get your biometrics to look out for you in an emergency. And before all of that, we're going to get in touch with Georges McNobelson, who is at the NBA.
Yeah, just a short distance from here, the Hotel and Suites is where the annual NBA conference is happening. I mean, it's gridlock there, back to back. All the lawyers in Nigeria, you can find them there. And they're going to be there from now till... Actually had some activities happen over the weekend. The interdenominational services and the Juma they had all the way. They're going to have this till Friday. So if you're coming on the island, you can imagine the gridlock you're having to face from Adetokunbo Demola all the way through Amadu Bello and then back again through to our office here. So I just saw white and black sea of white and black everywhere. But we talked with George McNobelson on the first day of the NBA conference.
Now, after when we're done with that, we'll bring our big 3 to you. And after the big 3, today is Monday, so it's Checkpoint.
Yeah, Checkpoint. Big story we're having on Checkpoint now. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, had petitioned the Human Rights Commission over a number of Nigerians who've been detained in facilities by the Navy. Navy's yet to respond. Human Rights Commission has responded, saying Femi Falana was being biased in the way he approached them and that he hadn't done enough to get them. But the truth is that you have Nigerians who were held up in military detention facilities. So we speak with Femi Falana on Checkpoint to see if we can make some headway from about that story.
And on the big hard fact, we're having an important conversation about the health sector. Nigeria is on the way to mark 3 years without polio. So we'll have conversations with representatives from the WHO as well as the president of the Nigerian Medical Association. 5 o'clock, it's going to be great. Don't miss it. We'll wrap up with I Beg to Differ. And as usual, throughout the show, we're bringing you the latest updates from the worlds of news, sports, and entertainment. But let's start it all off with the big three.
Listening to Hard Facts with Sandra Ezekwesili and Aghogho Oboh.
We are not seeing them. This one is covering us. We want to be seeing them. No, they are supposed to. We are supposed to be seeing ourselves.
This is the Big Three.
The Big Three on Hard Facts
On 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right. right, Lagos, welcome back. We have Judges McNobelson on the line with us. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
And I am Aghogho Oboh.
It looks like we don't have Judges. Okay, we're still trying to get back in touch with Judges, and when we do, we'll connect with him. Now, on the Big Three, you know what to expect. There's stories that everybody is talking about right now. Should the federal government negotiate with P&ID? Is NYSC right not to pay coppers ransom? And will Asema having your fingerprints save you in a flood? We'll get into the stories. Let's try again to get in touch with Judges. Still not working. P&ID, the Irish firm that received a $9 billion court judgment against the federal government, is compiling a list of Nigerian assets it can seize to enforce the judgment. P&ID told the Punch newspaper that they were weighing their options for asset seizure, but we're also not taking a negotiated settlement off the table. They, however, said that the onus was on the Nigerian government to open negotiations instead of, according to the company, acting in bad faith. The company used Venezuela's oil and Argentina's ships as past examples of asset seizures against sovereign nations. Oil and ships, Aghogho, huh?
Yeah, and so this legal tussle appears far from being over, because PID, the implication, which is over 20% of Nigeria's foreign reserves, the alternative towards any of those things, if we cannot find any way out of it, is something that even the CBN says is concerned about, because of the implications it will have for Nigeria. So I've heard most of the comments from the Nigerian side has sort of been to flex its muscles. For example, the Attorney General Federation saying those who did enter that contract will be prosecuted. Also, we're not sure whether Nigeria has filed its appeal yet to the judgment. So some of those how they say, the body language from the Nigerian authorities many times sort of suggests that negotiation is still not on the table yet. And well, I think we have Judges now.
Yes, we do. And I'll tell you about the Argentina case after we speak with Judges. Hello, Judges McNobelson, our political correspondent. Welcome to the show. Hello, Judges. Hello.
Hello, Judges. Okay.
All right. We don't have Judges yet. Yeah. We're going to try and get back in touch with him. Now, back to the Argentina case I was going to mention. Since P&ID mentioned it, I want to tell you about it. In 2001, Argentina defaulted on all its debt, right? About $80 billion. A particular group of creditors were owed $2.4 billion. And they took Argentina to court in the UK and the US. The British and American courts ruled that Venezuela owed the creditors. Now, one particular company decided to collect the debt, and it was a hedge fund called Elliott Capital. And what they did was they tracked vessels belonging to the Argentine Navy. And when one of the vessels landed in Ghana, Elliott Capital went to court in Accra, got a court order to seize the vessel until Argentina paid some of the debt. That's how Elliott Capital chased Argentina up and down the world, seizing its assets until Argentina was forced to pay $2.4 billion. And then with Venezuela, the company was Conoco. Venezuela nationalized oil assets belonging to Conoco in 2007. They went to court, and the court said Conoco could seize the assets of the Venezuelan National Oil Company. That's their own version of NNPC in other countries. And they did. They seized oil wells. And it's not... So when people hear, oh, these people are going to seize our national assets, it's usually not an empty threat. It's not an empty threat these guys are making. It's been done in the past. And that was why it was important for me to tell you that story. What we're hearing is that P&ID is open to a deal. Now, will the Nigerian government take it? That remains to be seen, Aghogho.
Yeah, it's going to be a great subject for discussion, I'm sure, during the NBA conference, if the Attorney General is in town, and he's representing the President, Muhammadu Buhari, at the conference, with opportunity for us to ask him and find out just exactly what Nigeria intends to do. I mean, unfortunately, we've got a litany of cases Nigeria has had to deal with many times when international bodies have taken us before courts, and because the government has failed to do what is right, we've had to pay the price many times unknowingly. If you run, we've talked about the the debt forgiveness, and many of those debts that was incurred by Nigeria during the period shortly after during the military rule, and then afterwards when Olusegun Obasanjo was president, and then we had to go seek debt forgiveness together with a number of African countries. Many of those debts, people would argue then, were for projects we had no idea. But a lot of them had to do with projects and contracts that were not fulfilled, and we breached the agreement. And so that's exactly what had happened then. So we have to face that same situation again now and again. Or is it with the Bakassi Peninsula too? The same problem did happen many times when most of those cases, and they say when one government changes, we read that in school, failure in government policy because there's no continuation in governance. And now people are backtracking and saying it wasn't my responsibility.
No be us get out, bro.
Well, then it's still Nigeria's asset. It's not any other government
At the end of the day, Aghogho, $9 billion is a lot of cash. That's 3.2 trillion naira.
Yeah. And obviously it's not something they can easily jump and forget about because of the fact that Nigeria's got international assets outside the country that could easily be picked on. And then if you're going to do business with the rest of the world, they will bring that up many times as a sign to say, if this deal fails, what is the guarantee that we would not face the same situation as P&ID faced?
And here's the thing, seizing all Nigeria's ships and money in foreign accounts will probably not give them all that money at a go because it's 3.2 trillion naira. Their hope is that the Nigerian government would not want this to continue. They would not want the continued shame of being hooked for owing money and having assets seized everywhere. But the government is insisting that it shouldn't be made to pay. That's what I find worrisome because the contract was illegally awarded, the government is saying. Now, I've heard observers say and ask, illegally ordered by whom? If government illegally awarded the contract, why should the contractor suffer? But let's bring this home to you. While we're still waiting to get in touch with Judges McNobblesome, we want to ask you what you think. This is a pretty big deal. Do you think it is? Should the government strike a deal with P&ID? Should the government ignore the court order? Do you think Nigeria will be capable of defending its assets abroad against seizure? 01277 0993. Have you been following this P&ID matter? 01277 1993, 01277 2993, and 01277 3993. We're streaming this conversation on Facebook as well at Nigeria Info FM, and we'll take your comments as we go along. But let's move on to our second story, where we have the commandant of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, telling all corpers that they are responsible for their safety and that the Corps will not be paying ransom if they are kidnapped. Brigadier General Ibrahim Shuaibu said corpers should be security conscious and adopt habits like not being out after 6 p.m. to avoid getting kidnapped. Aghogho, as a copper, were you always home by 6?
I'm no longer a copper.
But when you were a copper, were you always home at 6?
Yeah, I was home earlier than 6.
That sounds like a lie.
I did school in an urban setting, so it didn't make any difference whether, because I'm hearing some of the things and some of the comments made by the NYSC DG about and my mind goes back to previous times when people have been abducted who were corps members, and he said, for example, that they did not take exit. They traveled without permission in many of the places, not as some sort of reason why they found themselves in harm's way. But again and again, people have criticized the NYC in the way it's been able to deal with many of these issues. If it was back to, I think it was in 2012 election, they did face the worst season for NYC corps members during the elections, where at least 20 corps members were killed in post-election violence, I think in the northern part of the country. Then about 20 corps members were killed then, I remember very well, or 12 or so. And they set up a number of rules and all of that as a sort of reactionary way. And then you've had situations, even this year, corps members not just being abducted during the elections, in Borno State, killed, and they've said things. For example, we're only going to post at the height of Boko Haram's problem. We're only going to post to 4 local government areas where they are. We're not posting certain states because they thought those places were where corps members will find themselves in harm's way. But the irony with the policy here is that on the one hand, they're saying they won't pay the ransom. Some corps members have been abducted. Some have found their way back. We don't have the statistics, unfortunately, of the corps members who've been abducted while at service. But they pay compensation, or they pay losses and for corps members who die during service, which is better. To say this is what we need to do to prevent corps members from finding themselves in harm's way, to the point where people are beginning to question all of that stuff we used to do during corps. What do you call those, endurance and all those things, supposed to toughen you and prepare you for difficult
For getting
times.
kidnapped?
But definitely that doesn't work,
The Director General of the NYSC said, okay, we will not pay ransom. But the question is, will the government rescue the kidnapped corpers? Again, one of government's jobs is to protect all of us from the kidnappers and to rescue us if the protection fails. That's everybody's right. It's not just coppers. But with coppers who are on national duty, that right is even more critical. So the very idea that the head of NYSC is seeing kidnappings in terms of ransom, not rescue, I think that may be sending the signal that even the NYSC, a department of government, is not confident in the security agencies and their ability to get us out of trouble. But it's also possible that the DG is saying this as a message to corps members. If kidnappers know that NYSC is not paying ransom for coppers, maybe they'll be less likely to target the coppers.
I don't think so. They will target them still because, in fact, they're soft targets. If you imagine someone who is a stranger in a community who doesn't know, like they say in this part of the Koro. So most likely, if you're out, so some of the security tips will work for them. For example, don't be out late at night in places you don't know the geography very well. So it makes you an easy target when the kidnappers are around. But it still fails to deal with what the NYC will do. For example, to the fact that the entire essence of the program is to get the corps members embedded into the system, to know the norms and culture of the places they are in, to have a free. I mean, the thinking of the corps, which is sort of the illustration that the corps service will put out, is that go into the communities, mix with the community, let them know who you are, get free, feel free to work within the environment, and so at the end of the day, the chances are that you've known the community to the point that you can say that because you served in a place where is alien to you, you are now part and parcel of that place. And there's some good there were some good numbers in the past of corps members who were retained in their place of primary assignment and did not go back to their homes or where they're familiar with. So it defeats the purpose to say corps members will just sit down at home, finish maybe they're teaching after school, don't bother to know the environment in which they live in. It's a cosmetic approach in resolving a problem.
Here's a question for you. Should the government guarantee safety for corps members, safety from kidnappers and others? Remember that just a few weeks ago, Precious Owolabi, a corper, was shot dead when police cracked down on a protest by the IMN. At the time, it triggered a conversation about who is responsible for the safety of corps members. And remember that you and I did not volunteer to go to NYSC, but the government sent for us. The government requires us by law to serve after school. So these coppers are there on national duty. So to a lot of people, the idea that when you are on national duty, government is not responsible for your safety, it might seem a bit strange. And this same conversation popped up after 2011 elections, Aghogho. You remember when people were protesting the result in some states and started killing corps members. And each time, the only response from government seems to be that we're not responsible for the safety of corps members. And it's making a lot of people ask, why should government continue to ask young people to serve if government cannot ensure their comfort, their health, or even basic safety? And we're asking you, should government guarantee corpers safety from kidnappers and others? If not, should they ransom them? Should it be the government's job to ransom corpers who are kidnapped? Is government living up to its responsibility towards corps members? And then, like I ask, if you say no, they're not, should NYSC be scrapped? 01277 0993, 01277 1993, 01277 2993, and 01277 3993. Yes, you can comment on the PNID matter as well when you do give us a call. WhatsApp is 080 959 75805. 080 959 75805 if you want to reach us via WhatsApp. We're also streaming this conversation on Facebook, Nigeria Info FM. It's 17 minutes to 4. Let's move on to our final stories while your calls come in. From not protecting coppers from kidnap to possibly sheltering you during floods. The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, says it wants to launch a registration drive for Lagosians living in flood-prone neighborhoods. LASEMA plans to to get a list of everyone in these flood zones verified with biometrics. And the idea is to use this data to make arrangements for flood shelters during emergencies that can accommodate everybody affected. The DG of Lasema made this known during a sensitization program that brought together various security, rescue, and urban management agencies of the state government. Aghogho, they should just register everybody on the island. I mean, we are all in the flood-prone area. Like every single person on the island, huh?
I'm going through the areas in Lagos.
Maybe Korodu as well.
Yeah, which I know over time and over the years, I've often had flood problems. And it's almost the entire Lagos before. Well, ironically, we have more areas on the mainland which have flood problems compared to the island. I mean, you have your boy in Ikpaja, Surulere, Bariga, Nifo Oshe, Ijesha, Meron, Ajasa Command, a school in that area. Alagbole, Aghegho, Ojodu, Okunwaja, Ogba, Oshodi, Anokpaja, Owode, Badia, Aboru, Iwaya. I'm still going down at Jegunle, Owode, Oniri, Kuramo, that's the island, Maza, mainland, Ijegun, Isheri, Agbado, Akute, Ikoyi, and Victoria Island, especially the famous Amadu Bello. That's about 30 areas where this has happened. And well, this is coming because we know we already back in the rainy season. The usual August break didn't happen exactly as it should happen. Yesterday I looked out the windows and realized it was already wet and then mud everywhere by this morning. And so the rains are back as we approach September once more. And a number of questions people are going to be asking the capacity of the State Emergency Management Agency to deal with the predicted increased rainfalls according to NIMET's warning a couple of weeks ago. And this is a bit, I don't know whether this will tie into what the state did, I think it was four during the season 4 years ago, which is done every other time, saying that people who lived in many of these areas should relocate. It's never been obliged to by people to relocate from these areas. I mean, people instead have moved into those areas during the rainy season because we have a huge problem with accommodation in Lagos State. Imagine people would leave. So this September will come and we're going to be out there to see how they're going to cope. Unfortunately, once more, from all the signs on the ground, this will be another reactionary approach to a problem, and people just be hoping that we don't have the volumes of rain like we've experienced in several years. But it looks like every year has gotten worse, but never as bad as 2012. But it's still something for us to think about.
It's an interesting idea, I'm not going to lie. And it's really not new, if we're being very honest. All over the world, emergency agencies and municipal governments usually have estimates of how many people live in a particular area. They also have evacuation plans for each area and a master evacuation plan that shows what to do if multiple neighborhoods must be evacuated at once. For instance, when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans over a decade ago, there was a plan in place to evacuate people in particular neighborhoods to an indoor stadium. There were also plans in place for how to supply them with food and sanitary items. And that plan wasn't followed to the latter because of a few things, and people had to resign. I remember it was quite the scandal. But here, like I mentioned, we don't even have a plan in the first place. Every rainy season, these neighborhoods get flooded predictably. But come the next rainy season, we're still unable to handle it. So it's actually quite sad, if I'm being very honest.
I hope it won't also be double jeopardy because, you see, we've, the last couple of years, the Lagos State government is trying to do an identity management scheme. And I don't want to say it's dead as dodo, but we haven't seen going out. Threats haven't worked. Cajoling hasn't worked also too. Because you want to wonder if.
So I'm hoping this Lasema thing is a first step.
Because if that scheme had been effective, all they had to do was just extract from the master list they have, which is the Lagos Identity Residence. I think it's called LIRA. But that one definitely hasn't worked for them to say they want to go on a new. And then back to the question of we have so many data capturing schemes going on, and. We've had the discussion, I'm sure in the not too far distant future, we'll have discussion again about what we do with Nigeria's database. We still haven't been able to arrive at one where we can say the police is no longer charging you in Ikeja today as first offender. Then 2 weeks' time, they catch you again and they charge you again as a first offender. So, that is it. But
the curious thing about this plan, however, is the use of biometrics. I mean, okay, so strictly speaking, biometrics are not exactly necessary. I guess the idea is to make sure that people are not counted more than once and that the number of people in the neighborhood is not inflated. But it's a bit odd to me because it's not as if Lasema is going to be sharing money to these neighborhoods. The idea is to make provisions for emergency shelter. So does it matter if there is too much shelter? I mean, that's never a bad thing. Besides, anything can happen. Populations grow, populations shift. What if somebody wasn't around during the current biometric exercise? Will Asema turn them away during a flood? What if somebody, quote unquote, is upgraded, by God, and they move from the mainland to the island? I don't see the upgrade, to be very honest with you. But, island is quite aspiratory for a lot of people, right? So aspirational, for a lot of people. So what if somebody moves from the mainland to the island, but their biometric wasn't captured because at first they were not living in a flood-prone area. Now they're going to be moving to a flooded area. I mean, will Asema turn them away during a flood? So I don't quite understand why biometrics, but okay, Lagos likes to do gang, I have found. So I guess this is one more gang thing, huh?
All right, I guess so. You're spot on about the biometric thing. Maybe they can try, and then maybe we can say, for example, whatever the state government has in terms of biometric, we can now test it and see if what is existing. We don't need to provide certain information. But the way these stories go, very soon you'll hear it has to do with tax collection and all of that, because previous exercises have been frustrated because of the thinking that it was going to be used to tax people or the land use generation thing to know who are the homeowners and they can come and value your property and then the land. Well, all of those discussions, and it's true, discussions we'll still have later on because it was only just suspended. We still haven't been able to deal with the land use problem and the rents.
All right, let's hear from you. 012770993. Have you had a flood experience where you have had to leave your home? I would like you to tell us about it. Where did you go? Did anybody help? Did Lasema or other agencies attempt rescues? Are you a landlord? Are you a homeowner? Has government ever helped you with cleanup after a flood? Do you have flood insurance? 012771993, 012772993, and 012773993. WhatsApp is also available for you. WhatsApp is 959-757-805, 959-75805. And feel free to comment on all the other stories as well. We've got 3 today. We're asking if you think government should guarantee corpus safety from kidnappers and others. I think we have a few people trying to call in, but it's not working as great as we would like. And we're also asking if you think government should ransom corps members if they fail to keep them safe. Is government living up to its responsibility towards corps members? If you don't think they are, do you think NYSC should be scrapped? And this P&ID matter, have you been paying attention to it? Should the government strike a deal with P&ID? Should the government ignore the court order? Do you think Nigeria will be capable of defending its assets abroad against seizure? And of course, we're asking if you have ever had to leave your house because of flood. We'd like to hear that particular story. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Sandra.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
This is James speaking from Azimuto.
Hello, James. Welcome.
I've been listening to all your conversation. Oboh, how are you?
I'm very well. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I've been listening to all your conversation. See, Sandra, let us say the truth and the reality here.
Okay.
There is no any government in this world that can guarantee security.
Okay.
Even though they can't guarantee themselves security. The only person that can guarantee you security is Jesus Christ. You understand me?
Okay.
So the era we are living in now, the supreme crisis of the ages will be deepening. That's what prophecy said. That's what we see unemployment increasing. We see health sector, they have failed. Power, they have failed. Everything. Okay, look at this administration, this present administration. They promise, the past administration, when they are there, they have solution then. But now, when they are in power, they don't have solution. Is that the right government? I have seen it in so many prophetic writings. He said the government of every nation, they are the enemy of their people.
Thank you very much for your
comments.
comments.
If anybody is telling you that they are going to guarantee any security, leave them alone. They are all just like.
All right, James. Thanks for calling and sharing your thoughts. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Sandra.
Yes. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Aghogho.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah. My name is Hope from Bejuleki.
Welcome, Hope.
Yeah. For me, the situation Nigeria is now, I don't see how the coppers are being guaranteed safety. So for me, my own is they should scrap it for now because of insecurity in the country to safeguard the coppers. So in the area of flood, I had issue like that when I was living in the mainland.
Okay.
In fact, even the owner of the house didn't even help me, not to talk of the government. So it's a personal problem when such thing happens to one. Thank you.
Thank you for calling us, Hope. It was great to hear from you. Hello to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
I think the best thing is to just scrap it.
Okay.
I mean, the copper. Because how can you tell a person to go and work for you, say you cannot guarantee him? That sense is worthless. It better scrap it. I don't know why Nigeria, everything, they will take it seriously like that. Human life is better than even the copper they are talking. If somebody that can they bring him alive? I think they should scrap it. If they cannot guarantee their safety, they should scrap it.
If they cannot guarantee their safety, scrap it. Thanks for calling and sharing your thoughts. Akin in Ogun State. Hello, Akin.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to say something about this PANID.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I think it would be unfair on your side not to have read out the terms of the contract, what was in the contract, which the Nigerians officials signed to. Things like supplying wet gas at the rate of $100 per barrel for 20 years.
Well, we have taken that bit before. This is an update to that matter. We addressed this last week when we talked about it.
Let me just read them out.
Yes, go ahead.
The firm should be working at 93%. Then if there's any case, we'll take ourselves down to London or UK for judgment. Who does this? It's a question, though.
Who does what?
Well, who signs that sort of agreement?
This type of agreement. If Nigeria were to be their personal business, then will they have signed such a thing? Ikwan Jawala, in one of our written, said Nigerian officials who collude with this type of company include some clauses that will be impossible for the nation Nigeria to meet. Advise the company to take us to court, win the case, then they go back and share the loot. The fees together. That is what the former Minister of Finance wrote down. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Looking at all these things, those who signed this thing, are they not qualified for, how will I put it, for an arrest?
It's quite the question, Akin, but unfortunately we're out of time, so we cannot keep taking that particular comment. But this conversation is ongoing on Facebook. So Sunday has a lot to say about NYSC and the Nigerian government on Facebook, as well as Oluwadami Lola. We'll hear from you if you get on Facebook and share your thoughts. Coming up, a conversation with Femi Falana. Yes, Aghogho?
Oh, yeah, on Checkpoint. Illegal detentions by the Navy, at least one of the military arms over a number of weeks, some even months, is what we're going to be discussing on Checkpoint.
99.3 Nigeria Info.